Hello everyone, this is Pooka and welcome to another edition of Bad Deck Monday, where we take some silly ideas, see if they work, and just try to have some fun. Now today, I'm going to warn you, this is one of the worst decks I have ever played with. It is downright terrible, but it's a lot of fun. So let's jump right into it. This deck is going to revolve around the little Luvdisc. The Rendezvous Pokemon has a very unique attack. Heart Wink for 1 energy, flip a coin if heads. Your opponent can't draw a card at the beginning of his or her next turn. Alright, so this is our strategy. Stop our opponent from being able to draw a card at the beginning of the game. Or at the beginning of the turn, sorry. So, obviously, this strategy has a lot of holes. First of all, you have to flip a coin to use Heartwake in the first place. Now, we can fix that a little bit. With Victini's Victory Star, this allows us to re-flip a coin. So instead of a 50-50 shot of using Heartwink successfully, we now have a 75% chance of preventing our opponent from drawing a card at the start of the turn. Alrighty, so that's our first obstacle with Luvdisc. Second obstacle, we don't do damage with Heartwink. It does 0 damage. All it does is prevent your opponent from drawing a card. So, to help with that, we have 4 Hypnotoxic Laser. So instead of doing direct damage, we are going to use Hypnotoxic Laser to poison our opponent's Pokemon, and then that way, they can get knocked out eventually. Between the Hypnotoxic Laser and the Burbank City Gym, we will eventually knock things out. It's going to take a while, but hey, if they're not drawing cards, they might not be able to do anything, and they just kind of have to sit there and watch their Pokemon get knocked out. Alright, so that's obstacle number 2. Obstacle number 3 is Luvdisc is a 60 HP Pokemon. It is very easy to knock out. And there's not much I can do about that. Alright, it's 60 HP. You live with it. If your opponent powers up any attacker, it's going to knock out Luvdisc. Then they start getting cards out of the prizes. So it's a very fragile strategy, but 1 in 100 times it'll work, and that's what we play for, that one time. Alright, and our final obstacle with Luvdisc is Virizion EX. Verdant Wind, we actually play one in this deck, so let's take a look at it. Verdant Wind, each of your Pokemon that has any grass energy attached can't be affected by any special conditions. So, if our opponent has Virizion EX, well, our only way of doing damage, Hypnotoxic Laser, doesn't work. Alright. So, yes, we have a lot of problems with this deck, but that is why it is Bad Deck Monday. We have it for a reason, alright? So, our backwards way of dealing with Virizion EX is actually to use Crushing Hammer. If we flip heads, we can discard energy from one of our opponent's Pokemon. And if that's the case, if we get rid of their grass energy and then use Heartwink to stop them from drawing cards, then Verdant Wind won't activate since they don't have a grass energy, and then Hypnotoxic Laser can get to work. Alright, probably not going to be a very successful strategy, but whatever. Bear with me here. Alright. So, Luvdisc is our main strategy. Now, of course, we want to disrupt our opponent's hand as much as possible, so that Heartwink actually gets us somewhere. If our opponent just has a Professor Juniper, who cares if they didn't draw a card? They're going to knock out your 60 HP Luvdisc, and you're going to lose. So we need a lot of hand disruption to work with here. Number 1 is Red Guard. Shuffle your opponent's hand into their deck, and then they draw 4 cards, so automatically they go down to 4 cards. And then after that, we have 2 options. Number 1 is Getsis. This can get rid of all the item cards they may have, but that's really not going to get rid of their supporter cards. Like I said, if they draw a Professor Juniper, well, then you're just not getting anywhere. So we also have Hooligans, Jim, and Cass. Flip a coin if heads. Take 3 random cards from your opponent's hand and shuffle them back into your opponent's deck. So with Red Card and Hooligans, Jim, and Cass, if we flip heads, we can effectively put our opponent down to a 1-card hand, and then odds are that won't be a supporter card. If it is, you got unlucky. Live with it. But if it's not a supporter card or some way to draw extra cards, then Heartwink can realistically leave our opponent at a 1-card hand for quite some time, and maybe we can just win based off of that. So this is a very silly lock deck that shouldn't really work ever, but hey, we're going to try it out anyway. Our other Pokemon in this deck, we have one Sableye. Junk Hunt is going to be great for getting back those Hypnotoxic Laser. That way we can actually continue to do damage. So Sableye seems pretty good in here. And we also have a 1/1 line of Dragalge. Now, reason being, Poison Barrier stops poison Pokemon from retreating. One of the biggest problems we could encounter with this deck is you play Hypnotoxic Laser, you poison something, and then the Pokemon simply retreats. And then we're not doing damage anymore. And then we have to use another Hypnotoxic Laser, and we only get 4 of those to work with. So we need to stop our opponent from retreating, and Dragalge is our way to do that. Alright, so that's our second kind of tricky guy to help us out in this deck. And then our last one's going to be Shaman EX. This is a deck that does not do any damage. So sometimes we just need a big Pokemon to come in at the end and do a big burst of damage. And that's what Revenge Blast will be for. Just 30 plus 30 for each prize card your opponent has taken. So after your opponent has knocked out a bunch of Luvdisc and whatnot, we can come in with Revenge Blast to do a ton of damage to take down even the biggest of Pokemon. Well, probably not the biggest, but we can do 180 damage once our opponent has taken 5 prize cards, so that works out pretty well. Alright, we have all sorts of other crazy trainer cards as well. We've already seen the red card, the Hooligans Gym and Cast, the lasers, the crushing hammers. This deck has so much going on. What else do we have in here? We have one Trick Shovel. We can look at either player's top card and choose to discard it or keep it there. This can be good in some situations where, if sometimes, you're not always going to get heads on on Heartwink, even though you have a Victini. So this allows you to look at your opponent's top card and say, alright, is that a good card? If it's a supporter, and then I flip double tails on Heartwink, I want to discard that. I don't want my opponent to have that. But if it's something worthless, like like a Pokemon that they won't get to use, then you just keep it there, and then even if you flip 2 tails one time on Heartwink, there won't be a useful card there. So Trick Shovel's actually kind of cool, and it just seemed worth putting into the deck. Why not? We also have a lot of item-based draw cards since we're going to use like Hooligans, Gym and Cast, and Getsus. That means we have 3 roller skates, flip a coin, and draw 3 if you hit heads, and then 3 bicycle, draw until you have 4 cards. We have some other supporters in here. One Shadow Triad is going to allow you to get back a Hypnotoxic Laser. Seems pretty good in my book, since that is our main form of offense. One Pal Pad can shuffle in 2 supporter cards from the discard pile back into the deck. So this just allows us to keep a constant stream of supporter cards, between Sableye, Pal Pad, our A-Spec, Dowsing Machine, what else? We even have Super Rod, shuffle in Pokemon and Basic Energy. We can basically reuse every card in this deck, except for the Prism Energy, since there's no way to recover the special energy. But otherwise, we can recover every single card just between Pal Pad, Dowsing Machine, and Junk Hunt, and Super Rod, which is kind of neat when you think about it, just having infinite amount of just about everything in here. Our other supporters, we have one Shauna, one and only one because we're trying to keep our opponent at a low hand size early on. N and red card kind of conflict with each other, so we're going to just play one N just in case we really need it. 4 Professor Juniper, discard your hand and draw 7 cards is going to be the best draw card in this deck, since it only affects us. We get to draw stuff, and again, we can always recover stuff if we need to. And is there anything I missed? Gosh, there's so many cards in this deck. I have 2 Switch just to make sure we can get our Luvdisc Heart Winking on the first turn. And I guess the last cards are Level Ball and Ultra Ball just to search for our Pokemon. And the last one is going to be Jirachi EX. Now, Stellar Guidance is really cool in a deck like this, where you have so many different kinds of supporters. We have Getsus, Hooligans Gym and Cast, and Shadow Triad, even Shauna, Juniper. This just lets us get whichever supporter is going to help us in that situation. So Stellar Guidance is going to help out quite a bit. I guess I forgot one Startling Megaphone as well, because you never know when you're going to need to shut off that pesky Garbodor. Who knows? Alright, now I've spent a long time explaining a deck that is actually fairly simple, so I apologize for that. But let's get into a game that's most likely going to be extremely painful with the one and only Heart Wink. Come on, Luvdisc. Let's see what we can do. Let's work some magic here. Alright, so we're starting off with a Luvdisc. Perfect start. It's exactly the Pokemon I want to be starting with. You have a Jirachi EX in hand as well. And then, oh no, an Inkay. Ah, red card. Oh, man. Well, this took a turn for the worst very quickly, and it gets us! Looks like we're going up against a deck that's trying to do almost the exact same thing. Oh, that's just silly. We see a Hypnotoxic Laser from my opponent, and of course, if you don't know what Malamar does, it has mental trash, flip 4 coins. Well, actually, I would flip 4 coins, and for each tails I got, I would have to discard a card from my hand. So this is, looks like a Battle of the Hand Disruption decks, which is very unusual. Top deck, oh man, a Hooligan's Gym and Cast, are you kidding me? Alright, here we go. We could really turn this game into something silly. Heads on the Hooligans, Gym and Cast. We're going to shuffle in that Crushing Hammer, Energy Switch, and gets this. Alright, now I don't know what that last card is, but if it's a Malamar, I just want to bench everything, so I won't have to discard any useful cards. And I'm going to be at a 0 card hand and pass the turn against that Inkay. Oh man, this is silly. We see a Confusion Wave from Inkay. Both Pokemon are confused. Alright, a Bicycle. Beautiful. Alright, now we're in business. But oh no, Inkay has Upside Down Evolution. If it's confused, it gets to evolve itself. Alright, I'm going to go for the Getsus. We see Getsus and a Darkness Energy. Boy, that's pretty useful. And I'm going to go, let's see, Hypnotoxic Laser is worthless if my opponent actually gets to use Upside Down Evolution. But if we put Inkay to sleep, it is no longer confused, and it can no longer use Upside Down Evolution. And that means my opponent cannot get Malamar in play. So this is just a painful struggle of both sides not really being able to do anything. Alright, so let's see when my opponent drew this turn. A whole lot of nothing. We just see a Confusion Wave once again. I did get a Crushing Hammer. Not going to be very useful, but, it's probably going to have to get discarded by Malamar anyway, so I probably should just play it. It's Tails, and oh man, this means Luvdisc will be knocked out by the poison from that Hypnotoxic Laser, and I'm going to have to promote something here. I'm just going to throw out the Sableye. If I draw a Prism Energy, we could junk hunt for some Bicycle goodness or Hypnotoxic Laser or all sorts of good stuff, whatever's in there. But here comes the Malamar, and this is going to make sure I really don't have a hand. Not that I actually had one anyway. There's the mental trash. Oh, baby, 4 heads. And, oh, there's actually a glitch here. I'm going to be, well, I guess the right thing to do here is just say no, obviously. I don't get to choose if my opponent wants to reflip for an attack my opponent does. Right? That should be, that's absolutely wrong, but I'm going to give my opponent the benefit of the doubt here. Say that was 4 tails, I would just keep it. I'm not going to reflip, though, if 4 heads. Alright, there's the mental trash, 3 tails. I could be a jerk here and reflip, but no, we'll say no. That was the result. And discard my 2 cards. Alright, here's a Trick Shovel. And, alright, that's going to allow me to look at my own deck. And, ooh, and then, no, we're keeping that there. So next turn, we know there's something good coming, and maybe this can turn into a real game. This, again, has been an epic struggle, I would say, between 2 decks that are just not doing anything. Here comes a Sableye. Oh man, this is going to get even uglier. Double Sableyes going at it. I haven't even been able to use Heart Wink yet. Goodness gracious, this is just silly. Alright, we see a junk hunt for a random receiver and a laser, I think. I'm going to go ahead and play the N, and there is the Roller Skates. Got 3 cards off of that, and alright, well, we can red card my opponent down to the 4 cards there, throw down a Luvdisc, and then go for the Hypnotoxic Laser. Didn't get an energy, that's pretty unfortunate, but we got heads on the laser, and he got tails on sleep, so that's a victory in my book. And now, we'll see what happens from here. I don't really know. I do have 3 Professor Juniper and a Shadow Triad. Not exactly an ideal hand, but at least I have a supporter this time. It's not just a bunch of dead cards with nothing to do. Yeah, I really don't know what's going to happen here. This is one of those unpredictable situations in Pokemon where who knows? Really, who knows what is going to happen in this game? And alright, my opponent stays asleep on the Hypnotoxic Laser. And I'm going to go with a Super Rod here. We can shuffle in the Dragalge and then a couple other Pokemon there. Throw down the Verbank, City Gym, and let's go with a Roller Skate. I have a red card here. My opponent really didn't do much after playing an N, though, so I'm not even going to bother playing it. We'll go ahead and Juniper the hand away. Not great cards, but I did get an Ultra Ball, which means I can Ultra Ball for the Dragalge I just shuffled in. And now that means, hopefully I can get it. oh God, what's happening? Well, huh? Well, I got the Dragalge in play, but apparently there's just going to be one floating there for the rest of the game. I have never seen that before. I have seen a lot of glitches on Pokemon TCG Online. I have never, ever seen that one. That is certainly a new one for me. Oh my goodness. Really, it's just stuck there forever. It's floating on the screen. Alright, well, we got that there. There is a Verizon EX underneath it, but oh well. Alright, so Hypnotoxic Laser is going to poison my poor Sableye. And then my opponent's poor Sableye will get knocked out from the poison damage. And here we go. Sableye coming out. I do have a Hooligan's Gym and Cast I could play, but probably not a good idea. Let's go ahead and Dowsing Machine for Hypnotoxic Laser. Go ahead and play that. And I really need to get a Prism Energy this turn, I think. We'll see if we can get that. Oh, good. Dragalge even floats over my discard pile. Cool. Let's go with a Pal Pad. We can shuffle in a couple supporters here. Gonna do an N for sure, and I could do a Getsis or a Juniper. I'm going to do Getsis, since, you know, it actually could be useful against this kind of a deck. Still no Prism Energy, though. That's bad. Here's a Crushing Hammer. I'm going to get Tails on that one. Boy, not even a Grass Energy to use Heartwink. That's disappointing. Alright, let's just switch into the Luvdisc. We'll Level Ball for the Jirachi EX. And pass the turn over to that Sableye, who is stuck thanks to the floating Dragalge and its poison barrier. I guess it's just becoming a part of my field forever now. My goodness, this is already it just a weird game. I don't even have words for it. And now I'm just going to have a floating Pokemon there forever. Alright, so we do see a Junk Hunt for a couple cards there, but Luvdisc is just going to be a champion and say, haha, you have been knocked out by the Hypnotoxic Laser. And I'm not even using Heartwink, but hey, whatever. There is a red card. Oh my goodness, that's actually... Well, this could be really bad if my opponent gets a good mental trash. There's a heads on the Hypnotoxic Laser. But yeah, if my opponent were to hit, like, even 3 heads would be really bad. 2 I could deal with. 1 or 0, yeah, that's fine. But 4 tails or 3 tails on the mental trash, and I'm going to be in some major trouble having to discard so many cards. Especially those Hypnotoxic Lasers, since those are, of course, the lifeblood of this deck. Here we do see a Dowsing Machine grabbing a Getsis. Oh no! So now I'm at 2 cards, so now 2 or more tails on the mental trash, and I will lose my hand entirely, and we're going to be in some real trouble. Here's a Super Rod shuffling into Sableye, second Sableye and a Darkness Energy, then a random receiver gets a Professor Juniper, and here we go, mental trash! Whoa, only 1 tails. I am getting extremely lucky here, and we do get to keep that Professor Juniper. We top decked a Bicycle anyway, Let's, I have a roller skates. I probably should have played that before playing that prism down. Oops. Roller skates, tails though, so no harm, no foul. And let's go with the Hypnotoxic Laser. That's going to be a heads on that. And my opponent did get a Juniper off of the random receiver, so it's probably not going to matter that much. Alright, let's just heart wink and go for it. Tails! It's the first time we're going to use heart wink. Come on, baby. Okay, double tails on the first time we're going to use heart wink. This deck hates me. And Dragalge especially hates me for being stuck in limbo forever. Okay, we do see an N. I was expecting a Juniper that turn, but it looks like we got an N instead. There is a Trick Shovel. It's probably going to go on me. We'll see if a card gets discarded or not. And yes, a Shadow Triad goes down. That's not cool, but we'll see what we can do about it. Crushing Hammer. Heads! No, stop it. Don't do that. So I was going to retreat and junk hunt that turn, but now I don't have an energy to retreat, so that's not going to happen. Let's go with the Heart Wink. Let's see if we can actually do it for once. My opponent has a one-card hand. Heart Wink, success! No drawing a card for you. Only a one-card hand. Sableye will come out, though, and we'll probably see a junk hunt for some useful cards here. But here's the thing. Even if there's a junk hunt, we can Getsis those cards away. I'm going to get hit by the Getsis first, though. What is going on? This is just such an unusual game. Crushing Hammer again. Whew. Alright, that one was tails. That's a big deal there. I really want to be able to junk hunt here to start getting my resources back. I don't know. We'll have to see what my opponent does. Obviously, he knows I have the Getsis, since he played a Getsis and saw my Getsis, and I've said Getsis more times than I ever have in my life right now, but there might be some strategy to this. You would take back cards that you kind of want for later, but you don't want immediately because you know they're getting shuffled back in by a Getsis. So, my opponent took Crushing Hammer and Dowsing Machine. I'm going to take a look through my deck here and see what's left. Not a whole lot of good stuff, but I wonder what my opponent has left in the discard to even take. I'm going to go for my own Getsis here for 3 cards. My opponent's left with no hand, but again, there's Junk Hunt at my opponent's disposal. Crushing Hammer, heads though, discarding the energy, so my opponent has no cards. Victory for Luvdisc, victory for Heartwink. I cannot believe it. This just shows how bad this deck is. My opponent didn't even want to let me win. Just wants to concede, not wanting to go through the Heartwinks and the lasers and the junk hunts. Oh my goodness. This was just an epic game, and it is all culminated. Nobody did damage that game. Nobody attacked for damage a single time in that game, and there's a floating Dragalge still on the screen. I don't even know what to say. But oh man, I'm at a loss for words, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was ridiculous. I will certainly have some more for you soon. I am Pooka from the Top Cut, and I will see you guys next time.